The church was filled with soft music, white roses, and the quiet whispers of expectation. Sunlight streamed through the tall stained glass windows, painting the aisle in warm colors. It was supposed to be the happiest day of Elena Brooks' life. Instead, it became the day her world cracked open. Elena stood near the altar in a simple ivory dress, her hands trembling slightly as she held her bouquet. She wasn't a girl chasing fairy tales anymore. She was a single mother, a woman who had already learned how cruel life could be. This wedding wasn't about dreams. It was about stability, about giving her 7-year-old son, Noah, a normal life, a safe life. Noah sat in the front row, his small feet swinging nervously. He wore a tiny gray suit that Elena had ironed twice that morning. He kept looking back at his mother, smiling proudly as if to say, "Mom, you made it." She smiled back, hiding the fear in her eyes. The groom, Daniel Reed, stood beside her, well-dressed, calm, almost too calm. Daniel was practical, respected, and financially secure. He wasn't the love of her life, but he had promised to be a good husband, a good stepfather. That had been enough, or so Elena thought. The priest cleared his throat and began the ceremony. Vows were read, promises echoed across the church. Everything felt unreal, like Elena was watching her life from a distance. Then it happened. A phone buzzed. Loud, sharp rung. Daniel's phone. He stiffened. Elena glanced at him, confused. The buzzing didn't stop. Whispers spread across the pews. Daniel reached into his pocket, his face paling as he saw the screen. Elena leaned closer. "Daniel." He swallowed hard. I need a minute." Before anyone could stop him, Daniel stepped back from the altar. The priest froze. The music stopped. Silence swallowed the room. Daniel turned to Elena, his eyes no longer steady. "I can't do this." The words hit harder than a slap. "What do you mean you can't?" Elena whispered. His voice cracked, but not with guilt, with relief. "I never wanted this responsibility. The kid, the pressure. I thought I could handle it, but I can't raise someone else's child. I'm sorry." Gasps filled the church. Elena's world collapsed in a single sentence. She looked toward Noah. He had stopped smiling. "Daniel," she said, her voice shaking, "you promised." He stepped away. "I'm done." And just like that, he walked out. No explanation, no apology, no goodbye. The doors slammed shut. Elena stood frozen, her bouquet slipping from her hands and hitting the floor. Her knees felt weak, her chest burned. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, judging, pitying, whispering. Her worst fear had come true. Not just rejection, humiliation. Noah stood up slowly and walked toward her, his small face filled with confusion. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" That question broke her. She dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms, holding him as tears finally fell. "No, baby, never you." The priest gently cleared his throat, unsure what to do. Guests began to stand, murmuring. Some looked away, some shook their heads, some recorded with their phones. Elena wanted to disappear. That's when she noticed him, a man standing near the back of the church. Tall, quiet, watching not with curiosity but with concern. His suit was plain, his expression unreadable. He hadn't been invited, he wasn't family. He was a stranger, and yet his eyes were fixed on Noah. As Elena struggled to stand, the stranger took one slow step forward. No one knew it yet, but that single step would change all of their lives forever. Make sure to like and subscribe to watch more stories. The church felt smaller now, heavier, as if the air itself had thickened with shame and sympathy. Elena could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears while she held Noah close, rocking him gently like she used to when he was a baby and nightmares woke him in the middle of the night. Around them, people didn't know where to look. Some guests whispered apologies they didn't really mean. Others avoided eye contact, as if humiliation were contagious. A few slowly picked up their phones, already turning heartbreak into content. Elena noticed it all, and none of it. Her world had narrowed down to one thing, her son's trembling hands clutching her dress. "I want to go home," Noah whispered. That word, home, cut deeper than anything Daniel had said. Elena nodded, forcing strength into her voice. "Okay, baby, we'll go." She stood, wiping her tears quickly, lifting her chin the way she had learned to do years ago when Noah's father walked out on them without looking back. She had survived that once. She would survive this too, or at least she would try. She took Noah's hand and turned toward the aisle. That's when the stranger stepped fully into the light. Up close he was more imposing than she had realized. Broad shoulders, calm posture. His presence didn't demand attention, but it commanded it anyway. He looked like a man who had seen storms and learned how to stand still inside them. He raised one hand gently, not to stop her but to ask permission. "Ma'am," he said quietly. His voice was deep, steady, not rehearsed, not dramatic. Elena froze. Every instinct told her to keep walking, to escape before this moment got any worse. But something in his tone made her pause. "Yes?" she asked, her voice guarded. The man glanced down at Noah first, not Elena. He crouched slightly, lowering himself to the child's level, keeping a respectful distance. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said to Noah. Noah blinked, surprised. "I did." The man shook his head. "Not a single thing." Something in his eyes, warm, certain, made Noah loosen his grip on Elena's dress just a little. The man then stood and looked at Elena. "My name is Caleb Hart," he said, "and I'm sorry you were treated like that." Elena swallowed. "Thank you, but we're—" "I know," Caleb interrupted softly. "You want to leave, I would too." His honesty disarmed her. "But before you do," he continued, "I need you to know something." The church had gone completely silent. Even the whispers had stopped. Every eye was now on them. Caleb took a breath. "I was raised by a single mother," he said. "I watched her get judged, abandoned, and blamed for things that were never her fault. And I watched men walk away because being a father scared them." Elena's chest tightened. "My mom used to say," he added, "that the worst thing a child can hear is 'I'm angry, I don't want you.'" Noah looked up at him again. Caleb reached into his jacket pocket, not hurried, not nervous, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it to Elena. "It's my business card," he said. "You don't have to call. You don't owe me anything. But if you ever need help, not money, just help, I'll answer." Elena stared at the card. The name was simple. The title beneath it was not. Caleb Hart, founder and managing director, Hart Industries. Her breath caught. Hart Industries was everywhere. Construction, logistics, infrastructure. It was the kind of company people in this room whispered about with respect. "You don't know me," Elena said slowly. "No," Caleb replied, "but I know courage when I see it." She looked at him, really looked at him this time. There was no pity in his eyes, no curiosity, just respect. Caleb stepped back, giving her space. Then he turned, not toward the exit, but toward the priest. "I don't know the rules here," he said calmly, "but no woman should walk out of her wedding feeling like she failed, especially not in front of her child." A ripple went through the room. The priest hesitated. "Sir, the ceremony is already broken," Caleb said gently, "but dignity doesn't have to be." Elena's heart pounded. Caleb turned back to her. "If you want," he said, "I'll walk you and your son down the aisle. Not as a groom, not as a savior, just as a man making sure you don't walk alone." Time seemed to stop. Elena felt every eye on her again, but this time it was different. This time, she wasn't the woman being abandoned. She was the woman being chosen. Not romantically, not dramatically, but humanly. Noah tugged on her hand. "Mom, can he?" Her eyes filled with tears again, but these were different. She nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "he can." Caleb offered his arm. Elena took it. As they walked down the aisle together, past the whispers, the phones, the broken expectations, something shifted. No one clapped. No one spoke. But everyone watched. And for the first time that day, Elena didn't feel small. She felt protected. What she didn't know, what no one in that church knew, was that Caleb Hart had not stepped forward by accident. He had been watching Elena for weeks. And this was only the beginning. The church doors closed behind them with a soft echo, sealing the moment inside like a memory that would never fade. Outside, the afternoon air felt colder, sharper, real. Elena released a shaky breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Caleb let go of her arm immediately, stepping back to give her space. He didn't linger. He didn't assume. That, somehow, mattered more than the words he had spoken inside. A black SUV waited near the curb. Its engine was off. The driver stayed inside, eyes forward, trained to disappear when needed. Elena looked at Caleb, uncertain. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he replied. "That's why I did." She let out a small, humorless laugh. "People will talk. They already are," Caleb said calmly. "The difference is now they'll talk about your strength, not your shame." Noah stood between them, staring up at Caleb with open curiosity. "Are you really rich?" he asked, innocent and blunt in the way only children could be. Elena's eyes widened. "Noah." Caleb smiled. "A real one this time. Depends on how you define rich." Noah thought for a moment. "Do you have time?" The question caught both adults off guard. Caleb knelt again, meeting Noah's gaze. "For you, yes." Noah nodded, satisfied, as if that was the only answer that mattered. Elena felt something twist in her chest, fear mixed with gratitude, and something she wasn't ready to name. They stood there for a moment in silence until Elena finally spoke. "Why were you really there, Caleb?" He straightened slowly. This time his eyes didn't move away. "Because 3 weeks ago," he said, "I saw you at Mercy General Hospital." Her heart skipped. "You were arguing with the billing desk," he continued. "You thought no one was listening. You kept saying you'd work extra shifts, that you didn't care how tired you got, as long as your son got the treatment he needed." Elena's breath caught in her throat. Noah frowned. "Mom." She squeezed his hand gently. "It's okay, sweetheart." Caleb's voice softened. "My mother stood at a hospital desk just like that once. Same look in her eyes. Same desperation to protect her child while the world asked for money first." Elena felt exposed, bare. "You followed me." "No," he said firmly. "I remembered you." She looked away, blinking back tears. "That was a hard day." "I know," Caleb said. "That's why I noticed when I saw your wedding announcement in the local paper." She turned back sharply. "You saw I sit on the hospital board," he admitted. "Your name stayed with me, and when I read it, something felt wrong." "So you came to the wedding?" she asked, disbelief laced with caution. "Yes, just to watch." "At first," he said honestly. Silence stretched between them. Noah broke it. "Are you like a guardian angel?" Caleb chuckled softly. "No, kid, just a guy who knows what it's like to grow up wondering why people leave." Elena finally spoke, her voice low. "Daniel didn't just leave today. He started pulling away the moment he realized Noah came first. I ignored it. I told myself love meant compromise." Caleb shook his head. "Love means showing up when it's inconvenient." She looked at him, really looked at him. Not the billionaire, not the rescuer, the man. "Why help us?" she asked quietly. "What do you want in return?" Caleb didn't hesitate. "Nothing." She studied his face, searching for cracks. "People like you don't do nothing." He exhaled slowly. "People like me spend their lives fixing problems with money because it's easier than fixing what broke them. Today, I didn't want to walk away." Elena felt her walls weakening, and that scared her more than being alone. A voice called out from behind them. "Elena." She turned to see Margaret Reed, Daniel's mother, standing stiffly near the church steps. Her expression was tight, embarrassed, defensive. "I just wanted to say," Margaret began, eyes flicking to Caleb. "Daniel didn't mean to hurt anyone. He panicked." Elena felt something inside her settle, quiet, firm. "He didn't panic," she said evenly. "He revealed himself." Margaret pursed her lips. "Well, I hope you'll explain things to Noah one day." Elena tightened her grip on her son's hand. "I already did. I told him the truth, that real fathers don't run." Margaret said nothing. She turned and walked away. Noah looked up at Elena. "Does that mean I don't have a dad?" Elena knelt in front of him, her eyes steady despite the ache in her chest. "It means you don't have the wrong one." Caleb watched the exchange silently. As the SUV door opened behind him, he hesitated. "Elena, I'll be in the city for a while. If you ever want to talk, no pressure, just call." She nodded, slipping the card into her purse. "Thank you for today." He paused, then added, "For what it's worth, you didn't lose a wedding." She looked at him, questioning. "You lost an illusion," he said, "and sometimes that's the beginning of something real." As Caleb stepped into the SUV and drove away, Elena watched until the vehicle disappeared around the corner. Noah tugged her hand again. "Mom." "Yes, baby. I like him." Elena smiled faintly. "Me too." What she didn't know, what she couldn't know yet, was that Caleb Hart had made a promise to himself the moment Daniel walked out. A promise not just to help, but to stay. And staying would cost him more than he ever expected. 3 days passed. 3 quiet, heavy days where Elena moved through life on instinct alone. Wake up, pack Noah's lunch, walk him to school, go to work, come home, collapse. The wedding dress still hung in the closet, untouched. She hadn't found the strength to move it, or throw it away. At night, when the apartment finally went silent, her thoughts got louder. She kept replaying the moment in the church. The humiliation, the whispers, and against her will, Caleb's calm voice cutting through the chaos. She hadn't called him, not because she didn't want to, but because she was afraid of what it would mean if she did. On the 4th morning, Noah's school called. "Elena, this is Mrs. Whitman. Noah had a bit of a situation today. Nothing serious, but could you come in?" Fear rushed through her veins as she grabbed her bag and drove across town, every red light feeling like punishment. When she arrived, she saw Noah sitting on a bench outside the principal's office, his shoulders slumped, and standing beside him, Caleb Hart. Her heart stopped. "What are you doing here?" she asked, breathless. Caleb turned, surprised. "I should be asking you that." Noah jumped up. "Mom, Mr. Caleb came when they called." Elena frowned. "They called you?" Caleb nodded. "You listed me as an emergency contact." She blinked. "I didn't." Then she remembered. The school forms. The wedding paperwork. Daniel's name had been there until Elena crossed it out the night before the ceremony. And without thinking, without planning, she had written Caleb Hart. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "That was a mistake." Caleb didn't look offended. "Noah fell during recess. He was fine, but they couldn't reach you." Elena knelt in front of her son. "Are you okay?" Noah nodded. "I told them my mom is strong, and Mr. Caleb came anyway." Something inside her softened. They walked out together. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the pavement. "You didn't have to stay," Elena said quietly. "I wanted to," Caleb replied. "And before you apologize again, don't." She studied him. "You barely know us." "I know enough," he said. "You show up every day, even when it hurts." They stood there, neither moving. For the first time since the wedding, Elena felt something unfamiliar: ease. "Would you like to come over for dinner?" she asked suddenly, surprising herself. "Nothing fancy, just food." Caleb hesitated just a second. "I'd like that." That evening was simple, too simple to feel dangerous. Noah talked nonstop, about school, about superheroes, about how Caleb should come watch his soccer practice. Caleb listened like every word mattered. Elena watched from the kitchen doorway, her heart tightening, not with pain but with fear, because this felt real, and real things could leave. After dinner, while Noah brushed his teeth, Caleb stood by the window, hands in his pockets. "Elena," he said quietly, "there's something you should know." Her stomach dropped. "What is it?" He turned to face her. "Daniel came to see me yesterday." The air shifted. "What?" she whispered. "He wants you back," Caleb said evenly. "And when you said no, he started asking questions." Her chest tightened. "Questions about what?" Caleb's jaw set. "About Noah's father." Silence. Elena felt the room tilt. "Noah's father is dead," she said. "That's not what Daniel believes," Caleb replied. She looked away, her hands shaking. "He doesn't get to dig into my past." "He already is," Caleb said gently. "And there's more." She looked at him, eyes wide. "Elena, Noah's biological father was once a shareholder in Hart Industries." The words landed like thunder. "What?" she breathed. "He disappeared 8 years ago," Caleb continued. "No records, no closure, just a sealed legal file." Her knees weakened. She sat down hard on the couch. "You're telling me this isn't over," she whispered. Caleb moved closer, stopping just short of touching her. "I'm telling you the past you tried to survive is coming back, and Daniel might not be the biggest problem." Tears filled her eyes. Not from fear alone, but exhaustion. "I just wanted peace," she said. "I just wanted my son to feel safe." Caleb's voice softened. "Then we'll protect that together." She looked up at him. "Why are you still here?" He didn't answer right away. "Because once," he said slowly, "someone walked away from me when staying mattered most. I promised myself I'd never be that man." From the hallway, Noah's voice called out, "Mom." Elena wiped her tears and stood. "I'm here, baby." As she walked toward her son, she didn't see Caleb clench his jaw, because the sealed file he hadn't told her about yet was labeled with one sentence that could destroy everything: paternity confidential, and it listed a name neither of them were ready to face. The next morning, the city buzzed like electricity, unaware of the storm quietly building in Elena's life. At first, it was subtle, a headline here, a whisper there. But soon, the tide of attention hit like a wave. Elena sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of lukewarm coffee. Noah had already left for school, his backpack swinging, oblivious to the weight pressing on his mother. Then her phone buzzed. Elena Brooks, wedding disaster, Daniel Reed walks out. Her stomach churned. It wasn't just social media anymore. Local news stations had picked it up. Reporters were reaching out. Her privacy, once sacrosanct, was shattered. Elena tried to ignore it, but another call came. "Ms. Brooks, this is City Life magazine. We'd love a comment about your wedding." Her hand hovered over the phone. She wanted to scream. She wanted to disappear. But then a calm voice stopped her. "Elena," Caleb said from the doorway, holding a black folder. "You can't control what people say, but you can control how you respond." She looked up. His presence, steady and unwavering, made her chest feel lighter, even when panic hovered at the edges. "I don't know how to deal with this," she admitted. "You don't have to face it alone." The folder he carried was heavy, not just in weight but in implication. He sat across from her, flipping it open. Inside were documents she didn't recognize, corporate files, legal memos, even a sealed envelope stamped Confidential Hart Industries. Caleb's eyes met hers. "This," he said, tapping the envelope, "is the file on Noah's biological father. And what Daniel doesn't know is that the truth could change everything." Elena's hands shook. "Change everything? How?" Caleb exhaled slowly. "Because Daniel isn't just after your heart. He's after your security. He wants to leverage the past to control the present." Her eyes narrowed. "Leverage against me?" "Yes," Caleb said, his tone darkening for the first time. "And that means protecting you and Noah requires action. Not waiting, not hopping. Action." Elena's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Caleb replied, "we need to preempt him, stop him before he drags us into the media circus and digs up truths that could destroy Noah's peace." The room went silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Elena felt a flicker of fear and something else, trust, something she hadn't allowed herself in years. I don't know if I can trust anyone right now," she admitted. "You can trust me," Caleb said, voice firm, "but you have to let me do this my way. No shortcuts, no regrets. And you have to promise me you won't face this alone." She swallowed hard. The weight of the world seemed to press against her chest. Okay," she whispered. Caleb opened the sealed envelope carefully, as though it contained fragile lives. Inside were letters, contracts, and documents confirming that Noah's biological father had been a silent shareholder in Hart Industries before disappearing entirely. Elena's jaw went slack. This is real." Caleb nodded. "More real than Daniel's intentions, and more dangerous if it becomes public." Suddenly her phone rang again. This time it was Daniel. "Elena, we need to talk," he said, his voice smooth, rehearsed. "It's about Noah, about everything." She looked at Caleb. His eyes didn't move from hers. "Do not answer," he said calmly. "This isn't about reconciliation. It's about manipulation. Let me handle it." Elena hesitated, then nodded. The room felt tense, thick with possibility. Outside, the city moved, unaware of the life-altering decisions unfolding within this small apartment. Caleb leaned closer. "I have to warn you, once Daniel realizes what's in this file, he'll stop at nothing. But I won't let him hurt you. Not again." Elena's breath caught. She wanted to ask why he cared so much, why he had risked everything at the church, but words failed her. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you for staying." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I promised myself I'd never walk away, and I don't plan to start now." The tension thickened, charged with unspoken fear and hope, but neither of them realized. The first wave of media scrutiny, coupled with Daniel's scheming, would hit by tomorrow morning, and Caleb's next move would test Elena's trust like never before. Like and subscribe to watch more stories. By the next morning, the storm Caleb had warned about arrived in full force. Notifications flooded Elena's phone, texts, calls, emails. Headlines screamed from every corner of the internet. Elena Brooks, wedding nightmare. Daniel Reed walks out. Single mom, humiliated on her wedding day. Billionaire steps in after groom flees ceremony. Her hands shook as she scrolled. Noah's innocent question, "Mom, are we in trouble?" echoed in her mind. She swallowed, forcing calm, but the fear didn't leave her chest. Then her phone rang. "Elena, it's Daniel," came the smooth, manipulative tone. "I want to meet. It's about Noah. We need to resolve this." Elena's grip tightened on the phone. She looked toward Caleb, who stood quietly in the doorway. His jaw was set, eyes cold with determination. "Do not answer," he said firmly. "This isn't about resolution, it's about control. He's trying to scare you. Let me handle it." Elena nodded, even as anxiety clawed at her throat. She couldn't help but wonder if Daniel's sudden interest was innocent, or if he had an agenda hidden beneath rehearsed words. Caleb moved to the laptop on the kitchen table. He typed quickly, pulling up legal documents and news reports. "We'll prepare a statement," he explained. "Keep it professional, keep it calm, and most importantly, keep Noah safe." Elena watched, awe mixing with relief. Caleb's efficiency was unnerving and comforting. Hours later, Daniel made his move. He showed up at her apartment building, insisting on speaking face to face. The doorman, aware of the chaos, blocked him politely but firmly. Caleb stepped forward. Tall, calm, intimidating without trying, he presented Daniel with a clear boundary. "This ends here, Daniel. Elena and Noah's lives are not your playground," Caleb said evenly. Daniel tried to charm, to manipulate. He smiled, gestured, used every tactic in his arsenal, but Caleb didn't flinch. Elena felt a strange mix of fear, gratitude, and growing trust. For the first time, someone outside her family was truly fighting for her. Later that evening, after Daniel left, frustrated, unyielding, Caleb sat with Elena and Noah at the small kitchen table. "Tomorrow the press will be relentless," Caleb said softly. "But we're ready. Noah's safe and you don't have to face this alone." Elena nodded, overwhelmed by emotion. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You don't need to," Caleb replied. "Just trust me, that's enough." Noah leaned against her side, sleepy eyes shining. "Mom, I like Mr. Caleb." Elena smiled faintly, heart aching with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Me too, baby, me too." Outside, the city buzzed with gossip and speculation. Inside, a fragile calm settled. But both Elena and Caleb knew the storm was far from over. Daniel's obsession with control, the secret of Noah's father, and the media scrutiny were only the first waves. And soon, the choices Caleb made to protect them would not only test Elena's trust, they could change the trajectory of their lives forever. The morning light spilled across Elena's apartment, but it did little to warm her mood. The phone rang incessantly. Journalists, curious neighbors, even distant relatives who had no right to pry. Every notification felt like a hammer pounding at her chest. Noah, oblivious, ate his cereal while humming a tune from school. Elena envied his innocence. She wished she could bottle it and keep it safe forever. The peace shattered when Caleb arrived, moving through the apartment with quiet precision. "They're calling from every angle," he said, setting a stack of papers on the table. "Daniel, not just trying to contact you, he's trying to manipulate the narrative. He's leaking bits of the wedding story to the press, spinning it so that it looks like you're unstable, reckless, vulnerable." Elena's hands trembled. Why would he even care about Noah? "Control," Caleb said simply. "It's never about the kid for him. It's always about influence." Elena felt a pang of anger she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Daniel had humiliated her publicly, and now he wanted to distort her life even further. Caleb opened his laptop, tapping keys with intent. "We're going to counter this. Carefully, legally. A statement, a few clarifications, and a refusal to let him or the media poke at your personal life. We own the narrative, not them." Elena watched him, feeling a strange warmth. He wasn't just protective, he was strategic, focused, calm. The storm outside her walls felt smaller somehow. Hours later, the first move was made. Caleb's carefully worded statement went out to every major media outlet. "Elena Brooks is a devoted mother and a woman of integrity. Any reports suggesting otherwise are misleading. Her personal life is her own, and she deserves privacy and respect. Noah Brooks is under her full care, and no one has the right to manipulate or sensationalize his life." Almost immediately, the tide began to shift. The narrative changed subtly. The press tempered their tone, but Caleb knew the fight wasn't over. That evening, Daniel appeared at her apartment again, unannounced. This time his approach was sharper, colder. "Elena, you don't understand what's at stake," he said, stepping past the doorman who, this time, hesitated. Caleb stepped forward, placing himself between Elena and Daniel. His presence was immovable, a wall built of quiet authority. "Step back, Daniel," he said evenly, but every word carried weight. "You will not cross this line. Not today, not ever." Daniel's eyes flicked to Elena, searching for cracks, for doubt. "She'll listen to me. She's afraid." "She's not afraid of you," Caleb interrupted, voice low and unwavering. "She's not yours to manipulate." Elena's chest swelled. She felt a surge of gratitude, trust, and something else, something she hadn't expected, hope. Later, as Daniel left, Caleb turned to her. "This isn't just about standing in front of him. It's about showing you that some people will fight for you when it matters. That's what you need to remember every day." Elena nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'm trying. I want to trust. I really do." Caleb smiled faintly. "Then trust me to protect you, and yourself to believe you deserve protection." That night, Elena watched Noah sleep, the warmth of his little hand curling around hers. She felt the weight of fear lessen, even if only slightly. She knew tomorrow the press would still howl, Daniel would still scheme, and the shadows of the past would still try to creep in. But for the first time since the wedding, she didn't feel alone. Caleb had drawn a line in the sand, and for Elena and Noah, it was the first sign that they could finally stand without fear. The morning sun barely touched the city skyline before Elena's phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't the press. It was an unknown number. "Elena Brooks, The voice was cold, clipped, professional. "We have information regarding your late husband, Noah's father. You may wish to review it before it becomes public." Her breath caught. She dropped the phone on the counter, hands trembling. Caleb was already beside her, calm but alert. "What is it?" Elena shook her head. I don't know. Someone's threatening to expose Noah's father." Caleb's expression hardened. "Daniel." "Why?" she whispered. "Why dig into the past?" "Because control has always been his game," Caleb said. "He wants leverage, something to unsettle you, to push you back into his world." The day spiraled quickly. Reporters camped near her apartment. Social media accounts reposted old photos, old wedding announcements, stirring rumor after rumor. Caleb moved like a shadow through the chaos, coordinating legal teams, issuing press statements, and more importantly, standing beside Elena like a wall. "You can't fight this alone," he reminded her. "Let me do the hard part. You focus on Noah." By afternoon, the confidential files arrived. Elena unsealed them with shaking hands, expecting the worst. Inside were documents proving that Noah's father had once been a minor shareholder at Hart Industries, tied to a partnership that had mysteriously dissolved years ago. Her stomach churned. This could ruin everything," she whispered. Caleb took the papers from her gently. "It won't if we act now." Elena looked at him, the weight of vulnerability pressing down. "I don't know if I can face this. I feel like I'm drowning in my own life." Caleb reached out, resting a reassuring hand over hers. "You're not drowning, you're surviving, and now you're protected." Noah ran into the room, oblivious to the tension. "Mom, can we go to the park?" Elena smiled weakly. "Yes, baby, let's go." As they left, Caleb stayed behind for a moment, staring at the documents. His mind raced. He knew what had to be done. A bold move, one that risked his reputation, his comfort, even Elena's trust. By nightfall, he made the decision. Caleb would confront Daniel directly, not with lawyers, not with press releases, but in a way Daniel couldn't manipulate. He called Elena. "Tomorrow, I need you to trust me more than ever. I have to make a choice that might scare you, but it's the only way to protect Noah." Elena's chest tightened. She wanted to protest, but something deep inside told her this was the moment to step back and let Caleb lead. For the first time, she realized that trust wasn't just about faith in another. It was about giving someone the chance to fight for you when you couldn't fight alone. As she tucked Noah into bed that night, she whispered softly, "We're not alone anymore, baby." Not really. Outside, Caleb reviewed his plan, a calculated, risky confrontation with Daniel that could either end the threats or ignite a war none of them were fully prepared for. And somewhere deep in her heart, Elena felt the stirring of something she hadn't allowed herself in years. Hope. The next morning dawned gray, heavy clouds mirroring the tension in Elena's chest. Caleb had arranged a meeting with Daniel at a neutral location, a sleek conference room high above the city, where power and influence clashed quietly. Elena felt a knot in her stomach as she followed Caleb to the building. She had no idea what he planned, only that she had to trust him completely. And after everything, that trust felt both terrifying and freeing. Caleb opened the door to the room. Daniel was already there, seated, posture perfect, confidence radiating. But for the first time, Elena noticed a flicker in his eyes, something like unease. "Caleb," Daniel greeted, cool, measured. "I didn't expect you to involve yourself in this." Caleb didn't respond immediately. He looked at Daniel once, steadily, then at Elena. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about protecting what's rightfully theirs." Daniel's smile was thin. "Rightfully theirs? You mean hers? Your sense of protection is impressive, Caleb, but misguided." "Try me," Caleb said, his voice low, unwavering. "Because I don't bluff, and I don't back down from protecting a child or a mother from manipulation." Elena felt her chest tight. She had never seen Caleb like this, calm, collected, yet dangerous in his determination. It was like watching a storm in human form. Daniel leaned back. "So what? You think you can just shut me out, control the narrative?" Caleb pulled out a copy of the confidential documents. "No, I plan to set the record straight. Everything you've twisted will be made clear, and I won't let you exploit Noah or Elena." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You can't stop the truth." "Truth is already on our side," Caleb said. "Your threats won't hold because we control the facts, not fear." He handed a folder to Elena. Inside were carefully prepared statements, legal documentation proving Noah's father's ties, and the necessary information to clarify any public confusion. Elena's hands trembled as she reviewed it. This was real. They had the power to stop Daniel from spinning the narrative, to protect Noah from his manipulations. Caleb's gaze met hers. "You don't have to speak unless you want to. I'll do this for you, for Noah." She nodded. There was no fear in her voice now, only a quiet resolve. "Do it." Caleb turned back to Daniel. "The public will hear the truth. You can either step aside or be exposed as the manipulator you've always been." Daniel's face hardened, but he didn't argue. He realized Caleb was not bluffing. The quiet authority in his voice left no room for games. Outside the conference room, the media had already begun to report, as planned, on a statement from Caleb Hart clarifying the facts about Noah's father and Elena's life. Headlines shifted overnight. Elena Brooks, courage shines amid wedding chaos. Single mother protected by unseen ally. Hart Industries, Caleb Hart steps in to defend child and mother. By evening, Daniel had disappeared from the public eye, unable to manipulate the story further. Elena leaned against Caleb as they left the building. I can't believe you did that," she whispered. He shrugged, a small smile breaking through his stoic demeanor. "I promised I wouldn't walk away. I meant it." Noah ran to them from the car, backpack bouncing. "Mom, Mr. Caleb, you did it." Elena smiled, holding her son close. "Yes, baby, he did it." Caleb crouched, meeting Noah's eyes. "We did it together, buddy." That night, as they watched the city lights from Elena's apartment window, she realized something profound. Caleb had not just protected them from the storm. He had redefined what safety, trust, and care could look like. And in that quiet, shared moment, she felt the first stirring of something she hadn't allowed herself in years. Hope for a future where love didn't mean compromise. It meant presence, courage, and unwavering support. The city skyline gleamed under the first light of morning, soft gold brushing the edges of glass towers. For the first time in weeks, Elena felt a calm that wasn't borrowed or fleeting. It was real. She stood at the window of her apartment, Noah tugging gently at her hand. "Mom, are we really safe now?" Elena knelt, meeting his eyes. "Yes, baby, we're safe, and we have someone who's always going to look out for us." Caleb stepped into the room, quiet and steady, the weight of the past weeks reflected in his calm gaze. "I'll always be here. You don't have to face anything alone." Elena felt a surge of gratitude and something deeper, something that had begun as trust had grown into connection, a bond forged through storms and protection. Noah laughed, spinning around. "Mr. Caleb, can we go to the park now?" Caleb chuckled, crouching to match Noah's height. "Absolutely, buddy. Let's make today about fun." As they walked out together, the sun rose higher, casting warm light on the streets below. The shadows of secrets, manipulation, and fear were finally behind them. Elena looked at Caleb, the weight of everything lifted just enough to let hope seep through. "Thank you for everything." He shook his head, a small, confident smile playing on his lips. "No thanks needed. I promised I wouldn't walk away, and I meant it." The three of them stepped into the morning, a quiet family forged not by blood, but by choice, courage, and unwavering support. Elena glanced at the camera, if only metaphorically, and whispered, "We survived the impossible together." Caleb smiled at her. Together, always together. The world outside continued in its chaotic rhythm, but inside, a new chapter had begun. One where trust, love, and protection weren't just ideals, they were lived every day. And to the audience who had followed their journey, thank you for watching this story unfold. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more emotional, inspirational storytelling that shows the power of courage, trust, and love. Every like and share helps bring these stories to life. Elena squeezed Noah's hand, smiling at Caleb. "Here, to new beginnings, hope, and the family we choose."